Hello, everyone. Welcome to Telling Tales. Welcome to Symbaroum. It's Wednesday night. This is what we do on Wednesday nights. I'm already fending off vicious assaults from a ferocious predator, thoroughly intent on getting in front of the camera. But the show must go on without him, because otherwise I can't get anything done. So, as I said, welcome to Symbaroum. We'll bring on the players momentarily, but first let's do the usual promo nonsense. If you check below the stream, there's a number of links to YouTube, links to Twitch. You're watching us on one of those two websites. Check us out on the other one as well. Twitch is where you can find us live, and YouTube is where all of our streams end up in video on demand format. We are currently running 3 weekly series. At the moment, Mondays is Vason, that just recently returned to action. Wednesdays is this, Symbaroum, and Thursdays for the next while, at least alternate Thursdays for the next while, is going to be Wicked Ones. We're going to have the first session of that tomorrow. It'll be a kind of session 0 setup thing, because Wicked Ones need some work doing to like establish the characters and the world and various other things, and we're going to do it live, because take your pick, because we're lazy or because we want you to see it. One or the other, 50-50. It's going to be fun. It's going to be a fun time. So tune in to the start of Wicked Ones tomorrow. That will also feature, in fact, not 1, not 2, not 4, but 3 of the players involved in Symbaroum tonight. So if you are a fan of John or Sam or Chris, then tune in, because they will be part of Wicked Ones tomorrow. Okay. We also run one-shots once a month, he said, directly after the month, or directly in the month where they're not running a one-shot. But we should have Johnny's Space Thulu thing, I think on the 1st of October is currently where it's penciled in for. And then hopefully we'll have something else maybe mid or end of October, and then November and December. We've got very few kind of one-shots lined up at the moment, which is quite unusual for us. But bear with us, and I'm sure they'll find their way to the calendar. Okay, I think that's it. I think that's probably it. That's all the promo. So let's start wheeling on the players. And we're going to start this week with good old Chris. Hello, Chris. Chris plays Theo. Curmudgeonly but caring. Elderly adventurer. Curmudgeonly. Yes, absolutely. I'll just get his image up. There we go. Yeah. Chris, tell us about the Witch Hammer. What's going on in this? What's the story so far in very limited terms?
Yeah, so once again, I'm going to try yet another angle on this. On holiday to Carvosti, the seat of power for the barbarian tribes of the north, we learned of a potential route to the Eldoradian city of Symbar, where limitless wealth and artifacts of phenomenal value were stored. One of the people involved in this was probably consumed by the task to an extent where she was missing, presumed dead, or presumed involved in something else, and this upset a local ogre. So we, being the selfless people who take care of creatures, decided to try and comfort the ogre by trying to track down Elmendra, I believe her name was, the lost person who'd kind of discovered this route. So we went off to, like, we had 4 sites lined up to kind of look into this various thing. Mostly kind of as the journey progressed, we were sort of like, we're just doing this to find the person. We don't care too much about the infinite wealth. But as we went on, the party kind of splits down the realms of the infinite wealth is also probably infinitely cursed, and we want to try and stop that from washing across the landscape like a blight, as it has done in Alberator. So let's try and stop. And half of the party being like, wow, quid's in, let's do it. So we have our own little fractions in the party, but they pale into insignificance next to the fractures that are occurring in Ambrian society at large, where the empress of the Ambrian people in the north of the Titans in Ambria has decided that this treasure belongs to hers via roots of a dubious prophecy that we have actually seen in character. And she is now marching a considerable army towards Carvosti, because I think everyone at this stage has worked out that the route to Symbar goes through the base of the plateau of Carvosti. Meanwhile, her church, the Church of Prios, have pretty much split in two, where their kind of militant wing have almost entirely lost their absolute marbles and become kind of like combat nihilists, and are now basically just doing a good old-fashioned kind of limited rampage. Whereas the Church of Prios themselves are, we don't know what the church are up to, but they're not in a good state. And let's see, are there any other? We've been told by the kind of the tribes people that should we find information about Symbar, the best thing we could do is to give it back to them. And of course, the other leg on the spider of the spider diagram of power are the elves of the forest, whose sworn duty, and indeed the duty of 1.5 members of the party itself, is to protect and prevent anything really sketchy getting out of the forest and causing trouble. So I suppose that's the geopolitical situation, and we find ourselves in a situation where Steo personally doesn't have too many chips on this particular table, but has realized that the situation is now so complex politically outside of the forest that it's probably safer just to hang around in Davokar for a wee while and hope this all blows over.
Yeah, it's safer to hang out in the Death Woods. Yeah, that's fair enough. Can I say I particularly like your description of the Knights of Dead Brios as combat nihilists? It's both very appropriate, and also the last thing you want to do is end up in combat with a combat nihilist, because nothing to lose, right? Yeah. Okay, let's bring on our next player. It's Stephen. Stephen.
Speaking of combat
nihilists, Stephen plays Elindra, former Templar novice turned adventurer. Yeah, Stephen, how are you? How's Elindra?
I am, for the purposes of the stream, just peachy, and Elindra much the same. I think she's probably come to a similar realization of Steo that, you know, tromping around the island of the accursed dead is probably preferable to like anything involving politics or other people.
Yeah,
so
I
think
sounds about right.
She's somewhat in her element right now.
Definitely. And speaking of someone in their element, let's have someone out of their element, sort of. It's Sir Arindar, as played by John. I did mean Sir Arindar, not John. John's very much in his element on these streams. Yeah, Arindar, last noble remnant of House Dar. Guy with a cat, like me. John, tell us, how are you and how is Arindar?
I am fine. That is, I don't really think about Arindar much more than I think about myself. So I'm just going to say I'm fine. Arindar is less fine, but on comparatively still quite fine. He's been a little bit shaken up by some of the events on the island so far, but still has all of his limbs attached. So as far as Davokar goes, that's a win.
Doing all right. Let's wheel on our final player for the evening. It's Sam, and Sam, of course, plays Askarai, our resident monster grinder and changeling scout. Sam, how are you? How's your little combat monster?
Just can't wait to grind some monsters. No, he's good. I think he's probably happy that he, at least for now, can worry about his imminent death at the hands of horrible wraiths rather than his imminent death at the hands of political powers he has no ability to affect or control. So, you know, at least he has some agency over his death on this island, as opposed to when he gets off it, where he will be probably horribly murdered with absolutely no say in it whatsoever.
Hey, Ascarai has so much agency, he takes away my agency as the GM. So, yeah, absolutely. A quick roundup of what happened last week. You were on Yeferon Isle to sort of get the last piece of the puzzle for your access to the tunnels below Carvosti. Yeferon Isle, as you discovered, is basically a horrific, corrupted island shuffled sideways in reality and shrouded in some kind of like mystical field that leads to everything within it becoming corrupt and undead. You made your way through the ruins of a city that was once there. You found a map that some unfortunate explorer had left behind, and you know what? I will only go and grab that map because I think it's pretty relevant to what we're doing here. And essentially, you follow that map to the X that's marked on it in the center there. You found a crack in the walls of Yeferon Isle, in the cliffs of Yeferon Isle, that seemed to lead to a tunnel. That tunnel, as indicated on the map, seems to lead near the ziggurat that is your target. You fought some very large polar bear type animals at the crack called Garug. You killed them and then found that they had a kind of batch of cubs that was still there, and we've kind of yet to decide on what happens with those. And while we're on that topic, I suppose there's a little bit of a potential trigger warning, because one of the options is to kind of mercy kill them. To essentially put them down, because otherwise they'll starve to death. If nothing else can be done, that's not a certainty yet, but just thought I'd put it out there. It probably won't happen on screen, if that helps anyone with that. You followed the tunnel all the way to the end and found yourself in another tunnel, one that's less a crack in the earth and more built by human hands ages ago, and you found yourself in front of a large granite door with what's Stephen very aptly described pre-stream as a Symbaric number pad or keypad next to it, and that's basically where we pick ourselves up. Would you like me to describe this scene to you again? Because it feels like that would help refresh, right?
Sure.
Yes, please.
Very, very well. Then I will do this. There is a massive double gate at the end of the tunnel made from black, red brindled granite. It is completely bare except for 16 stone plates on the right half of the door, each about the size of a person's palm and carved with Symbarian symbols. I think that's where we left it.
Does it appear that these symbols are like more or less buttons, like pushable things?
Well now, that sounds to me like what you're going near it, Ascarai, and taking a look. So why don't you give me a vigilance roll, please?
Okay.
And in fact, can you give me 2 vigilant rolls? Because I'm assuming you're kind of like moving forward ahead of the group as the scout anyway and taking a look.
Yep. I need 16 on my vigilant. It's a 13 and a 17. So I make the first one and just fail the second one.
Fair enough. I apologize in advance, by the way, for anyone. If I seem to be getting disgusting things on my face, all I can say is I challenge you to grow a shaggy beard and then drink smoothies and not have this happen to you. But with that successful first vigilant roll, you notice that each of these plates has a tiny hole in the middle, and you absolutely feel like that the plates are not kind of part of the overall piece of metal. They definitely look like they're separate, right? So they could be maybe pulled or pushed or moved in some way. That's definitely what they look like, and there's a tiny hole in the middle of each of them.
Okay. I will relay this back to the group. Looks like there's small holes in these things, stones. I think we can move them. I guess that's how we open the door, but I don't know where we even begin to figure out which one or ones.
Is anyone else moving out of the kind of crack and towards the door in any way?
I will move closer if just because neither Aaron nor John can figure out what that second symbol is supposed to be.
Okay. Can you give me a vigilant roll, please?
Which I succeed.
Okay. You see that the the tunnel floor, which is made up of kind of old dusted gravel, kind of that's been, you think it's been brought down here and coated to provide a more even footing. It seems to be quite disturbed, and you can see, you're surprised that Ascarai didn't notice, in fact, that there seem to be a lot of footprints. Recent ones.
Ascarai, look. It looks like someone else has been through here recently.
Right, yeah, I really should have spotted that. Okay, maybe it means we're on the right track. It's a good thing, I suppose. It also seems like these people knew a way in and out of the door, so maybe they were a bit more well-informed than we are.
I'm trying to remember, Matt, whether we actually saw any of the symbols that were on the door in Fria Ligan, and if we did, whether these bear any resemblance to that.
I'm not sure if there. Oh, I see what you mean.
We saw there was a mechanism.
There was a mechanism, but the design on the front of it definitely wasn't like this. It was more of like, it was an actual picture, essentially like a almost like a bas relief, right? But
with some
worked in metal. It was like a landscape scene, right? And parts of it turned or whatever. It looked very different from this. Obviously, many of those symbols are recognizable as one thing or another. You've already rolled successfully to notice it, so I will give you this for free, that the third symbol in on the top row, with all the information you have gathered, definitely seems to be the symbol for the whoever lived here's god.
Yes, I do remember talk of an ankh with a diamond-shaped head.
Mm-hmm. And it seems to represent or be symbolic, perhaps, of their god, who you now know to be called Manaud.
Manaud, yeah. I'll relay this.
Before you kick the dust up anymore, can you check that do the footprints go through the door or just to the door?
That's a very good question. Who is going to investigate that?
I will look to Ascarai.
Sure, that's going to be a cunning roll, please, Ascarai.
Okay. That is a 10, so just makes it.
There are a great many footsteps all around here from a relatively largish party, you think. None of them go through the door. And in fact, they come down the tunnel, not the crack you've come from, but this other tunnel. And then they mill around here, and then they go back.
Okay. As far as I can tell, none of these people are getting through the door now that I look at it. It's a great point.
Blasted.
If they also didn't know what to do here. I've kind of felt like we should try pushing one of these, but from a distance, maybe with a long stick or a spear.
Do any of the buttons appear to be like more worn than the others?
That is a great question, Stephen. Why don't you give me a roll of vigilant at a -5?
Oof.
And is this the kind of thing you think Elindra might say out loud?
Yes, I think she probably did wonder that out loud, and probably will have looked herself.
I think for a start, who wants to roll for Anton tonight? Because I definitely think Anton will be examining them closely, so he can have a roll as well. Who wants to roll for Anton tonight? Anyone?
I can roll for Anton.
I dealt with him last time. Someone else can take him.
Sure. Sam, why don't you give me a vigilant -5 roll for Anton as well?
Okay. Nope. An 18.
How did Alindra do?
I needed a 5. I got an 8. So,
yeah. I mean, other people can look if they want. It's the kind of thing where I think it feels a bit weird if the entire party does it. But I think it's perfectly reasonable for someone to ask Askarai to do it, for example, because Askarai is the guy who notices things, right? So
he's the looking at stuff guy.
Yeah.
The noticer. Askarai will wait patiently to be asked. Well, no, I mean, he's looking at tracks. So unless, like, you know, he no one's really... I mean, I'm assuming people are looking, and then if they can't see anything, they can't see anything. I think.
Sure. Well, Anton is going to kind of look it over and say, "I've seen symbols like this in Symbaroum ruins before, but I don't know how we tell. Is there an order? Have some of them been pressed and not others? I can't tell."
Can you jot them down, Anton? And
Anton nods and gets his little bound notebook out.
Do we have what we need to destroy this plinth?
Destroy it.
If we can't get in,
plinth, Chris.
Sorry, this keypad,
like the panel. Okay.
Yeah.
Not really. It's made of granite and metal, so probably not.
There's a couple of symbols where, I mean, most of them I can tell at least vaguely what they are, but there's a couple where I really don't know that. I mean, I think Alindra, you said the third one is the symbol of the god, but what about the one below that? And the fourth one on the third row? Those are the ones that I really don't understand what they're meant to represent, even.
An arrow with a cross through
Steel's going to kind of
eye.
And
Steel's going to kind of step up and take a look at this stage as well, because he's been hanging about in the door.
Sure. Well, why don't we have a roll of vigilant -5 for Askarai and Steo then, and then let's call it a day with the looking at with that particular roll, shall we?
Oh, the 2. So it makes it.
Okay. It's a no from Steo, but luckily, Askarai did. Okay. There are 4. Essentially, there are 4 what look like, you know, whether we call them buttons or plates, where it's not that the plates look different, but the frame, the kind of granite frame they're in, the edges of them look more rounded, as if they've been pressed in many times. And they are, and I will do them in the order on the thing, because I suddenly realized if I read them in the order on the thing, I'd be reading them in like the order.
We should press them.
Yeah. So on the first row, the third along, the symbol, the symbol for Manaud. On the second row, the symbol that looks like a cloud. Also on the second row, the symbol that looks like a crown. And in the bottom row, the symbol that looks like the sun. So Manaud's cross, cloud, crown, sun. There is nothing to help you with what order that might be.
Okay. I will mention this to the group then. It looks like the third one on the first row, the first and last one on the second row, and the second one on the fourth row are the ones that have been pressed frequently. So presumably the correct ones to press.
Unless we find this written down somewhere, we don't know the order, right? And this other group already tried.
And Tom shakes his head and says, it would be in keeping with Symbaroum ruins I've been in for the order to be inscribed nearby or in some way part of a like a memorized incantation.
Okay.
But
so
if it is, I mean, I cannot read Symbaric.
Well,
But perhaps the symbols themselves would appear in these wherever this is inscribed. Is there a chance of that?
And we got lucky that way in the Tomb of Dying Dreams, but it is not always the case from my reading.
Right. There is a corridor that heads. We're in a corridor that essentially a north-south corridor, right?
Correct.
So Ellinger will say, "We've not yet been north. Maybe there's something there. If it's written in Symbaric, we can't read it. But if it's somehow pictorial, perhaps."
I hate to rain on the parade, but the other group of people went that direction and didn't find anything. Otherwise, they would have gone through the door. What we do have are the symbols, and that's a great start.
Maybe they just didn't find it, or were forced to turn back by some other thing down this tunnel.
We have the Northerners' description of the genesis of this place. Did that cover off anything relating to the symbols? I mean, we know that Manaud symbol represents.
So we kind of did it off screen, but we had the conversation whereby Elindra will have taken the time to write this down last time, right? So I have it. So Elindra's going to kind of pull out her notes, starts reading. At the time when the barbarians crowned their first high chieftain, Yeferon and its surrounding isles were ruled by Queen Lasmiel, while most of the other rulers in the region supported Sarambar, Spider King, the god Oroki, the toad creature Manaud. So that's 2. So we're looking for
in the order.
Clouds.
Anyone noticing? And Tom will see that he has a very skeptical expression on his face.
Shut up, Antom. Carry on.
Shut up with your face.
Storm the cliff.
Well, they stormed the cliff, like the kind of thing that would happen from a cloud.
Maybe.
Storm a cliff from a cloud?
No, you can't have a storm without clouds. Disembodied voice of God.
I don't see anything about clouds and sun.
Okay, well, the sun must be the last one then.
And Tom says, I have to say, I think that this work has the reading of a history written by perhaps another clan, presumably the clan of the unfortunate individual we discovered by the river. I don't see how it would somehow be the code for the opening of this door.
I'm not ruling out that it's could be irrelevant or that it could be lost in translation, but it's the best thing we have right now.
What, out of curiosity, what language is this written in when we found it?
It's written in Odav.
Okay.
But a slightly dated form of Odav, I think Anton said.
Do we have any idea what language people on Yeferon spoke? I mean, Asgra's guess would be natively Zarek, but I mean... assuming, and this was 500 years ago, assuming that the clan still existed in the layout they do now, and assuming that the people on Yeferon were not a clan unto themselves, then one presumes they would have either been Odav, Zarek, or Bayaga.
Okay, everyone get out of the room. I'm going to use the staff and poke this combination
Crown, Manaud, Sun, Cloud.
Cloud, then Sun. Storm was the last one we had a positive ID on, so the last one has to be Sun.
Okay,
Has anyone
sure.
got any better suggestions?
We could try and explore the rest of the corridor.
It's
Let's
not going to
do
hurt
that
to
once this
go north
fails.
and look.
Just because everyone else didn't find anything doesn't mean we won't. We've got Ascaray and Anton.
Okay.
Let's walk up the corridor. It can't go that far. The island's not that big.
Anton, write down that sequence just in case.
All right.
Crown, Manaud, Cloud, Sun.
I say again, I do not understand how the code would find its way into someone just describing history of this island.
Just in case. It's the best we've got so far.
Happened.
He shrugs and makes a note in his notebook. You can't help but notice he puts question marks after each of them.
It's a history involving these people and this ziggurat and Manaud, and we see at least Manaud represented here in symbol form.
It's like
Sure, but I think his point is that this is a history not written by the people who lived here.
Yeah, sure.
So why it's like saying, oh, you know, an encyclopedia of British history would somehow have a code to a hidden door in Britain.
We're absolutely clutching at straws.
Absolutely.
Elindra is just trying to convince herself and anyone else that will listen that this is definitely sensible.
Well, Anton points out that if nothing else, you have a 1 in 24 chance of your code being correct. So, okay. So, are we proceeding northwards up this tunnel?
Yes, and I guess probably keep a close eye on like the walls and the floor to see if like where would things be inscribed. Anywhere, any surface a code might be inscribed on.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. You all go trudging northwards in the dark and definitely less claustrophobic environs of this tunnel, which are a bit, you know, it's a bit easier to walk side by side in than the crack that just ran under the island. You walk onwards for, let me think about how far the distance is between these things. Probably, yeah. It's not far at all. It's probably maybe kind of like a 10-minute walk to the north before whoever is in front, please. Could you make a vigilant roll and a cunning roll, please?
I think it's still me, isn't it? I think I'm taking point.
Unless it was Ascaray, I don't know.
I'm very happy for it to be still.
I have failed the vigilant, but passed the cunning.
Okay. Well then, you reach a section of the tunnel. It looks the same as the rest, but you feel something odd. You feel an extra kind of draft on your face and just a faint, odd, briny tang. Not briny, it's a lake, but kind of like a dampy, moldy smell that wasn't there a few paces ago. It's it's very still air down here, so it's quite arresting.
Some water nearby. Smells rotten. Well, stagnant.
Yeah, we're not gonna have to swim through another bloody swamp to get what we're trying to get to.
Do the walls or ceiling of the tunnel look any different ahead compared to behind?
No.
Carry on, maybe a little bit carefully.
Okay. Is Steo completely at the front, or is anyone alongside him? Because you can definitely walk like 3 or 4 abreast in here.
I think Astra would probably join C at the front to look for inscriptions and stuff in the hallway.
Sure, absolutely. Well, can you give me a vigilant roll, please?
That's an 8, so yes.
Okay, there are numerous kind of footprints on the ground below. They all seem about maybe 6 feet ahead of you to move to either side of the tunnel, and basically skirt around something at the center. And as your eyes kind of fix on that area, you sort of blink a bit. There's something there.
Is it in the tunnel? Or is it like not exactly?
There's a
Like,
haziness to the air.
Okay. Astra will like hold out an arm to stop Steo, walking forward any further and be like, I think there's something in the middle. The air looks weird somehow. It looks like everyone else has moved around it.
And it's not like a kind of pillar of oddness. There's a haziness just over the ground, it looks like.
There's definitely something not right in the middle there. And Tom, do you have any idea what that could be? I'll like try and point it out and see if Anton has any clue what it could be.
Is it?
Sorry. No.
Okay.
He...
After you, Matt.
Okay. Anton kind of bends down slightly and peers and says, "It does seem to be some mystical enchantment or thing."
Do you remember the thing that we encountered in the cellar under that ruin?
That blocked the way.
Well, Anton won't remember that, will he? But I don't think he was there. But I'm sort of saying to the others
about it, though.
Yeah, that's true. Does this invisible thing resemble that invisible thing?
No, because that invisible thing you couldn't see, and this invisible thing you can see.
Okay.
And it's definitely not the whole thing. It's just this area that people seem to have avoided.
Do we poke it?
Are there footsteps after this obstacle?
There are footsteps. You can see footprints running round either side of it, as I said. Askarai, there's also actually no, you're on the south side. Never mind.
I think Askarai will very closely follow the footsteps that skirt around it and see if he can reach, like, get past it, or what is beyond this thing.
Sure. Yeah, if you stick closer, and there's a fairly wide area, there's a good couple of feet on either side that people seem to have stuck to. Yeah, you find yourself on the north side of it just fine.
And at this point, there's like, it kind of ends, and then the foot, like, it seems to not be in the passageway anymore. Is that
correct? You can also see a fair pair of footprints approaching it from the north and then ending at it.
Okay.
DeGesto has kind of edged his way forward and he's sort of shuffling around the side as well. He reaches kind of like carefully down to the floor and scoops up like a little handful of gravel. And then once he's round by you, Askarai, he kind of, shows you it and gestures like, should I?
Yeah, why not?
He gingerly kind of tosses the gravel forwards, and there's like a scattering and clattering noise as the gravel falls through. Clearly, what is an illusion of the floor of the tunnel, which sort of oddly melts away slightly. There's still a haze to the air, but you can now see that there is a relatively large pit in the floor of the tunnel. DeGesto kind of like has one of the lanterns or torches and kind of like leans over a bit more and shines his torch down, and you can see that a good maybe 10 feet down is what looks like a pool of foul smelling water, which has sharpened metal poles coming out of it. There is a man's body impaled on it, dressed in the clothes of a Queen's Ranger. DeGesto
relatively
goes,
recent? Does it look like this is a relative? Okay.
Yeah.
Within a few months at least.
You've got a smell. There's a definite smell of decay coming to you, which wouldn't be the case if it was, longer.
Okay, so it's a pit in the ground. I mean, at least we know we need to be very careful, but at least we know there must be something this way to be worth guarding with this kind of mystical trap.
We're thinking this is trap rather than a thing to go down and explore, right?
Trap.
Yes. It just looks like a shaft with water at the bottom of it with spikes in. Like
it's there to kill people.
To go.
Like,
yeah, it definitely looks that way. Yeah.
Well,
I described it as 10 feet, by the way. The actual thing describes it as 5 meters, which is considerably further than 10 feet. But yeah.
Best keep moving.
Maybe a little slower.
Yep. Still, we know maybe what happened to those Queen's Rangers.
At least one of them.
Assuming it's the same group, I guess they got here before us.
I mean, I'm happy to tell you that the footprints leading up to that trap look the same as the footprints going on either side of it.
That it was a bunch of Queen's Rangers.
You think the Rangers were the people who, were at the door as well.
Sure, yeah. They came from the north, and one of them discovered this the hard way.
Mm-hmm.
It is interesting that it fell in it from the north, whereas they avoided it from the south.
They would be coming back that way, though. They didn't come in through the cave. They came in from wherever this tunnel emerges.
Exactly. So this might just lead out somehow.
If we see daylight or whatever passes for it on this island, and we don't see any clues, then I guess we're going back. We'll know we've gone as far as we can.
Okay. So we're keeping moving forward, I assume? Okay.
Carefully.
Absolutely. Another 10 minutes or so passes. And who is at the front? Is it still Steo at the front? Is it Steo and Ascarai? Is it, are we just relying on just Steo?
I think after the trap, Ascarai would be at the front with Steo from here on out.
Absolutely. In that case, can I have a vigilant roll from you both, please? It's plus from Steo and from Ascarai.
That's a 20.
Ooh. In that case, I'm going to have Steo pull Ascarai back. Because Steo, you have noticed that not only is the tunnel ahead of you look to be getting lighter and looking to maybe start a sort of upward slope, but also in the point at which it does that, in the point at which it moves from level to going upwards, the first thing you notice is blood stains on the walls and the floor. The second thing you notice is 6 narrow slits, 3 in the ceiling and 3 on the floor. You are instantly reminded of a certain encounter in the Tomb of Dying Dreams. You grab Ascarai as he's moving forward and kind of yank him back. Not to take over your character, but I'm assuming that would be...
Not twice, lad. Not twice. Look at those.
Oh, jeez. Thank you. Thank you, Steer.
You've seen these before? How do you get around them?
You, now that you're close and you recognize it more, you can see that there is the walls kind of there's a sort of rim around the side of the walls where these slits are, and the top, like you thought at first it was just the tunnel kind of lowering, but now you're closer up, you can see that it's actually a ridge in the roof of the tunnel. There appear to be runes carved in the ridge. Symbaric runes.
The time we encountered them before, they were only triggered by messing up a code to a door, I think.
Interesting.
So we didn't really have to get past them as long as we could get through the door. Here, I don't know.
Well, there's a door. There's a code.
And Tom leans forward and peers up at the runes and says, "I'm sorry, I can't translate them."
Do they look more like Symbaric writing than the kind of pictograms that we saw then?
Correct. Is anyone... Well, Askarai, you can go ahead and make a vigilant -5 roll for Anton, because he definitely look at them. And if anyone else wants to take a closer look at them, they're welcome to make that roll as well.
I'd like to try Witch Sight, which is a vigilant roll, but mystical.
Sure.
That's another 20 for Anton. Well, one for Askarai, one for Anton.
Yeah. Anton has no idea.
Assuming there are no modifiers on Witch Sight, which is because it's vigilant modified by discrete of the location. I pass just about.
Sure. I'm not sure Witch Sight will really do anything here.
Vibes.
Unless I've very much misunderstood what Witch Sight is.
No, I'm not especially like, I'm not imagining that I'm suddenly going to be able to interpret this in any meaningful way, but just like
because it's primarily
what color is this place?
Yeah, I mean it's not really places that you tend to get with Witch Sight. It is more auras, auras and mystical phenomenon. It's
the dominant shadow of a creature, location, or object. So I'm looking like, I guess, specifically at this trap.
Sure. I'm not really sure there's much I can give you.
Sure. Okay.
Because like the only auras that are described in stuff is
people,
living
creatures.
things.
Yeah.
Or creature, or undead things. So I'm not really sure. Let's just say it has the same feel as the rest of the island, like a sort of heavy darkness. Like maybe when you're looking through it doesn't prevent you seeing, but like the edges of your vision, like a darkness kind of like creeps into the edges of them. There's nothing different about the trap.
Cool. Thanks.
To everyone, just take a step back. It's time for Steo to poke some things.
Okay.
I'm just going to kind of prod the floor plates and the kind of the floor tiles and the area around the trap to see if I can find a triggering mechanism for it. I'm pretty sure it was supernatural the last time we found it, but for the sake of doing something.
Sure. You poke your spear down, and you know what? I'm going to say that nothing happens.
Does it look like there's a way you could walk where even if something horrible came out of these slits in the ground and in the ceiling, you wouldn't be hit by them? Or is it like
it depends what comes out of the slits?
If it was the width of the slit and went into the other slits in the ceiling or into the ground.
The slits are almost next to each other and flush with the wall. No is the answer to the question.
Okay. I think we've got to turn around. It looks like they're triggered by some mystical force, which probably is going to be us walking into them. There's no obvious way around it.
Well, they got through it, so they can't be that formidable.
But perhaps they had some wizard with them that could do something about it.
There's bloodstains there, Ascarai. Someone caught it and survived. Or didn't survive, but let the others pass it.
I mean, I'm not walking through this first to trigger it and get that kind of damage dealt to me so we can walk through. I wouldn't expect any of us to sacrifice like that.
I'm gonna take a page out of DeGusto's box and throw a rock over the room. Just to see if anything happens.
Sure, yeah, nothing happens. Steel has already poked through it with the spear, but yeah.
I think it's down to me, isn't it? I got the best armor out of the lot of yous.
I mean,
it looks like this leads out, and the way we need to go is to the door rather than anything else.
Well, I'm kind of hoping that when we get to the top, we'll find the combination we need engraved neatly in a pillar by the doorway in a place where we can jot it down without having to leave the protection of the cave. That's my dream.
Yeah, if it was that simple, the Rangers would have figured it out.
I say we go back, try the sequence we have, and if that doesn't work, we can try the 31 others, or we can go knowing that we now at least have what is a better chance than what we arrived with.
23, which will be faster. So, yeah, let's try it.
Assuming the mechanism doesn't get fed up with us guessing wrongly, but yeah.
Oh,
All
that's a good point.
Well, there was no blood there, so it didn't bother them either, the Rangers.
Sure. We have no better ideas. Like it's either that or go all the way back through the cave up and through the courtyard of the ziggurat. And I do not want to do that.
Yeah, we've been warned against that. Come on, let's go.
South.
All right. You make your way back south. You make your way around the mystical pit trap when you find it, and you find yourself once again at the granite door. So we are about 40 minutes from where we were at the beginning of the session, just so you know.
Okay, everyone stand back.
Since
Come on,
since there are holes in these buttons or whatever they are, I would suggest trying to stand to the side of them when you press them, as if any trap is in them or going to come out of them, seems like it's going to come like towards you. If you can stand to the side, maybe that will help a bit.
Okay. So I'll kind of come out of the direct line of fire from this keypad and come on, old pokey, don't fail me now. And I will move through the listed.
So what's the first one we listed?
The crown.
Crown's the first one. Okay. I'm not going to make you roll for it. I think it's like kind of difficult to do that, but I think you can line it up and just prod. You're a strong guy. The symbol, the crown symbol, goes in with a click. You feel like you see something kind of shine or glitter or something like that in the center of it, where that hole is for a second, and then it's gone. And then all other 23 panels click in.
So they're all now recessed, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Wrong answer.
How do we reset it?
Suspect it's on a timer.
Time is something we don't have. How long do we wait?
I think we got the best answer we're going to get. I think we go.
Do we want to give it 10 minutes? Or are we just going to walk away now? Like, I don't know what we do if we don't get into this cigarette.
I think I don't like. Is the answer not in front of us? Like this is the key. These are the symbols we need to unlock. I think this is what we need. I think whatever the correct answer to this is also the correct answer for whatever gate we find under Carvosity.
But we don't have the answer yet.
That seems a stretch. So you're saying you think this gate and the gate under Carvosity have the same code?
Yeah.
I think the gate under Carvosity, we were very much led to believe the gate under Carvosity is much more like the door in Fria Ligan than this.
Like these people were the enemies of Carvosity.
This is also true.
Yeah, I think the mechanism of this door is not the same as what we found in Fria Ligan, and as far as we were led to understand, that is the mechanism of the door under Carvosity. So maybe these, even then, we would need to figure out the symbols on this door, which we still don't know. I think we should wait here 5 minutes and then try pushing something or doing something.
I'm going to put my ear to the door and see if I can hear anything inside it.
To the door or to the panel?
The panel, but not in a place where I could be potentially stabbed by things coming out the hole.
Okay, I'm gonna stretch and say that is just about possible. Give me a vigilant roll at let's say a -3.
Okay, so 2 or lower.
You're the one who said you wanted to do it. It's clearly a vigilant roll.
I rolled a 20.
Yeah, you don't hear anything.
I can't hear anything.
I guess
I'm going to say that 5 minutes have passed while you're discussing this.
We're not forcing this door.
Oh, wait, no.
You're definitely not forcing this door. It's made of granite.
Steve, could you try? I mean, I know they're pushed in, but maybe pushing another one, maybe that will reset them somehow. Or
okay, I'll push the ankh, the square ankh.
There's nothing to push. Like you can put pressure on it, but it's not moving.
How many times does it look like the Queen's Rangers went up and down the corridor? Does it look like they came down to here, milled about, and left, or does it look like they made multiple trips?
I'm not sure there's any reasonable way to detect that information.
Fair enough.
They definitely didn't come and go lots, because I think that would mean the entire ground is churned up, right? And it's not that. But I don't think there's any way to necessarily tell whether it was once or twice or even 3 times or whatever.
I guess we don't really know how many Queen's Rangers there were. So, like,
there's that. Yeah.
Well, don't know what to tell you. I think we should get off this island.
What would we do in Carvosity?
Survive?
Maybe we come back tomorrow?
We'd have to trek all the way through the town again. I feel like I'd rather try I'd rather try and get out of the tunnel. I'd rather wait even up to an hour or try and prize these things out using something in the holes. Or, it's been a difficult journey here. To just leave and come back seems hard.
This is a profane and cursed place. Everyone has told us we shouldn't be here. Some point we need to start listening to these people. It's not safe.
Steo advocating for abandoning the campaign there.
That's yeah. As he does on a semi-regular basis. So what do we do, Steo? We march back to Carvosti or Thistlehold to go and see what role is carved out for us in this war.
DeGesto is looking increasingly frustrated at this conversation.
I am
DeGesto.
open for other suggestions. The safest suggestion is we go and take a rest, get some food, go back to the village.
DeGesto, how much gunpowder did you say you had again?
I have enough for a small mine and several charges on my fire tube. What are you thinking?
Well, it's a door, and if you can't unlock it, maybe taking the door off the hinges might be a solution.
It's a possibility. Can you tell me where the hinges are?
No.
Can you tell me where the bolt is? Can you tell me how thick that granite is?
I was hoping with enough explosions that's not an issue.
I don't have that much explosive. Look, I don't mean to be aggressive, but I feel like we found a door we can't get through. Let's abandon our mission is a peculiar course of action. We need to get to the ziggurat, yes. We know where the ziggurat is. We don't need to come this way.
Not the same ziggurat with the army of undead outside it? Or is there a different ziggurat with an easier path to it?
You never heard of stealth?
It's been explained to me once or twice, yes. I jangle.
If we're in a position where we have to wait however long it takes for this thing to either reset or for the island to chase us off it, then I guess it's a way to pass the time.
Just as a last thought on this door and what Aaron suggested, I guess so with what you have, taking into account that there's holes in these panels, buttons, whatever they are, do you think you could blow one of them off or destroy one of them? Do you think that's a possibility?
I think I could try and blow part of the panel off.
If we could get maybe just one of them off or some of it off away from the buttons we think we have to press, perhaps that would give us enough of a look at the mechanism behind it to understand what it is. Or
it's not that fine a tool. I could try and blow the side of the panel off. An individual button, no. But I could try and get the edge of the panel open, and maybe Steo, with that overgrown knife of his, could try and lever the rest of it off. But you have to know that's the last of my explosives. And I'm not getting any more until I get back to Thistlehold. So it's up to you. I'm all for just going and taking a look at the ziggurat. Up close. Maybe there's another way in. Maybe those dead bastards are just stood up there in rows, not caring. Hell, maybe they're statues. We didn't get close enough to see. But I'll go with the group. If you want me to blow this panel, I'll blow this panel.
We've been warned against a frontal approach to that ziggurat.
And
I'd rather take the panel off.
If we take the panel, if we try to take the panel off and it doesn't work, then this door is locked for sure. This thing must reset somehow after some amount of time. I think I'm with the Gesto. We may as well spend that time looking for alternatives. I don't want to stroll in the front door, but maybe there is another way. We haven't looked.
De Gesto looks round to Arendar and Ascarai, perhaps hoping that they both want the same thing and not one of them one and one of them the other. Otherwise, we are at a voting impasse. Well, there's always Anton, I suppose. But...
What does Farron think?
We're not giving votes to Revelia and Malamai.
I'm not against.
I do agree that if we're just going to sit around and wait, then it would make more sense to be doing something else at the same time.
Yeah, I kind of agree. I suppose the only question, well, not the only question, but if we are going to go and look, what way do we go?
Sorry, I think it's worth. I feel like we're not actually discussing the actual question here that the Gesto has put out. He's not said if we're going to wait around, should we go to the ziggurat or not. What he said is, am I blowing this panel or not? And so far, Steo says yes, Elindra says no. That's the question we need. I don't think anyone is going to argue that if you're going to wait around, should we just stand here and do nothing, or should we explore the rest of the island? I think that's a given, and I certainly will almost you're going to want to not stay here for very long.
Yeah.
Not because this is special, but because your corruption is slowly ticking upwards. So
yeah,
as GM advice, I will outright say, don't just stand here watching a door.
Yeah. Spend time productively.
Yeah. But the question is, does De Gesto blow this panel or does he not? 1 for, 1 against. Ascarai and Aaron.
I think, even though I suggested it, if this is the last of your explosives, it would probably be best to save it until there is no other option.
Or
we currently have an
under Carvosti.
Ill-advised other option, but it is another option.
Would you be able to get more of what you have, what you need in Carvosti, or would it have to be Thistlehold or Ambria?
It's not stuff regularly carried by the barbarians. If Carvosti has an uncommon barbarian trader or still has some Ambrians trading on it, possibly. The only way for sure is in somewhere like Thistlehold with a market. And even then, it's pricey stuff.
I mean, it's your stuff. It seems like you want to go for the other option, and I'm...
No, I think both are a shot. Look, if we hadn't been warned about the ziggurat, I'd be saying, let me keep my bloody explosives and let's go look at the ziggurat. We were warned about the ziggurat, so I figure it's either way's a risk.
If it works, it's going to be faster and safer. If it doesn't work, we're wasting the last of your explosives, but potentially we might not ever need these explosives before. Maybe you'll be able to get some more. I think it's worth a try. This could make it, if it works, it'll be so much better. I can't imagine many other situations where it'll be more.
We've literally got 50-50 again, even including those. That's fine. Okay. You know what this means narratively, and I know it's awkward. He's asking the group. The group includes Anton. Anton. How do we? Here's a genuine question. How do we determine what Anton thinks?
I think Anton when faced with a choice between unpredictable explosives or going all priesty on an army of the undead, might go for the latter.
That I think that implies a bloodlust that Anton definitely does not have.
Okay, but
I think-
it's a situation which he has the tools for, I guess.
He's also seen enough of Davokar to know that when you're warned to not go to a place, maybe pay attention to that.
That's
Yeah, fair
true.
enough.
I will also say that what Sam said convinced me.
Oh, well, I mean, that could solve things.
Yeah.
So are we blowing
Is
this?
Aaron going to express that?
Yeah. I think Ascarai has a point that there's a lot of maybes for both arguments, but if this risk is successful, then it will save us a lot of time and effort.
Okay, fine.
And I think going through the main entrance to the ziggurat, there's a good chance it will use up all of your supplies anyway, if we have to fight our way through.
All right. Well, shit. Move away. In fact, get yourselves back in the entrance to the crack.
Good luck.
Malamai, I need your eyes. Malamai kind of nods a bit nervously and kind of steps up. And you can hear them kind of muttering to each other as DeGesto kind of like taps out a stock of powder from the end of his fire tube and puts it into a little kind of pouch he has, which he basically is. He has like a pouch of powder and a pouch of what seems to be kind of like a sticky gummy clay, like looks like it's made of sap or something, and he's mixing the powder into this sort of clay and then pressing it all around kind of one corner of the panel on the wall. So while we're doing that, has everyone moved back to the sort of where the crack meets the tunnel?
Oh, yes.
Okay. Oh, yes. Can we all raise our corruption? Temporary corruption by 1, please. Don't forget to do it for Anton as well, please, Ascarai. So that's 3. Everyone should have 3 temporary corruption, correct? Okay.
I got 0.
Apart from Steo.
Apart from Steo. And also, who would like to give me a D10 roll, please?
Sure.
Looked to me like Stephen was looking to do it, so go ahead.
Yeah. A 7.
7. In that case, can everyone who is in the crack make a vigilant roll, please, at -1?
Fail.
Nope.
Success.
Nope. Aaron does a success. Ascarai, success. Okay. Aaron and Ascarai, other than feeling the weight of the island pressing down on you even more as you feel something inside you kind of start to come unhinged, you hear a whispering, slithering noise down the crack, and as you turn on the edges of your torchlight, you see 3 wraiths gliding through the air towards the group of you. John, can you give us some initiative, please? It should be just. Oh no, we had Garugs, didn't we? So it's. Or no, the last thing we had was a wraith, right? Maybe.
I've got
Yep.
them both
Tunnel
here
Wraith,
anyway.
but I don't think we had
Alright.
an initiative for that.
We
Yep.
didn't have the initiative up, but John saves them anyway, so there we go. You can. Malamai and DeGesto, for obvious reasons, will not be taking part in this. Ascarai, go ahead.
Okay, they're coming from not the direction where they get to Malamau, the other direction. Like
Correct.
guys. Okay.
But
As-
if obviously if they're to do that work, then they need to not be distracted by something trying to drain the strength out of them.
Yes. Ascarai is going to take 2 shots at whatever one seems to be closest with his bow.
Sure, absolutely. So the defense is flat, so go ahead, please.
And he's also going to make Hunter's Instinct on this one he's shooting at.
Mm-hmm.
That's a 9, so it hits. And the damage is a D10 and a D4 plus 1. 9 damage.
9 damage. Okay.
And
Do
then,
you want to take your second shot?
yep. That's a 19, but I get to roll again. I think that misses. What's that? Is that defense?
It's flat.
Okay, got that. So that hits as a 13. And the damage is again 9.
Okay. That's the 50% chance. Okay. The thing looks like its edges are all frayed slightly from your arrows piercing through it, but all three of them are still gliding towards you. I'm going to say, and this is going to be mean of me, but I think in the crack only 2 of you can stand side by side, but all 3 wraiths, because they kind of intermingle and they're spectral in nature. So as soon as 2 of you are engaged with them, that's it. And Askarai can't fire through because no line of sight. So with that in mind, Elindra, what are you going to do?
She's the meat shield. She's gonna step up and engage and attack.
Okay. Are you gonna charge the one that Askarai's already put a couple of arrows through, or one of the others?
How's that one looking? Like raggedy
Pretty,
or
pretty kind of almost like flickering in and out.
Sure. Yes, I think we want to be finishing things off.
Sure.
So yes,
well, as you charge in on it, you'll get your long attack first anyway, right?
That's right. Am I going to be at disadvantage by being outnumbered though?
Well, they haven't necessarily engaged. Also, you're not disadvantaged by being outnumbered.
Okay.
That's
by being flanked.
They will have advantage on you, but you won't.
Okay, yeah, it's not disadvantage. Thinking of different systems. Fine. Okay,
yeah.
So I'll just do it.
Worse systems, right, guys?
Okay, that's a hit.
Dominant systems. Yep. And
oh gosh, 18 damage. No, well, that's nonsense. 16 damage. It's
well,
a D12. 17 damage. D12, D4, D1. Then I rolled a 12 and a 4.
Well, you didn't need anywhere near that, let me tell you. And as you run up and kind of strike with a great sweep, what's left of the wraith sort of dissipates on your blade. And I'm going to say, given how packed this is, I'm going to say the next one along you can be engaged with and strike if you want.
Let's do that. That is a miss. And I think that's an XP spend. That's all right by you. I really want to hit these things. Okay, that's a hit. The damage is 7.
Okay. You swing around with your blade and you kind of catch it on the end of it rather than get a good blow in. And as before, like your blade, you can feel it passing slower through them. Like there's some kind of resistance. It's like chopping through oily smoke. And the thing definitely sort of hisses and keens as you swipe through it, but doesn't seem to be in any mood to stop fighting. It's kind of or dissipate or flee. Okay, you've got Revelia. Is Revelia going to take the other space next to you, or is she going to hold back? Is Elindra going to shout for it? What's going to happen with that?
I don't know what she's going to do. I guess you'll follow Elindra's lead. Yeah, I think she will feel that maybe she can fend them off with the shield in a way that is more effective than we could do with polearms and other things.
Sure. I think the way that this crack is, like, I think she will struggle to engage the one you're engaging, if you see what I mean. So I think
Yep.
basically fighting side by side against them. So there's no flanking, it's just 2-on-2.
Sure.
So with that in mind, do you want to make an Revelia's attack?
Yes, that is a hit, and she is currently going to be doing D10 with that sword. 3. So
3. Yeah, she strikes and kind of swings through it, but it doesn't seem to do very much. Arendar, Farron. I would say that no one else can, but if you want, Farron can take an action to try and get past the melee to attack the wraiths from behind, but it's up to you whether you want him doing that.
Can I ask mechanically, because Farron uses natural weapons, like, is it the touch that takes away strength, or is it the attack?
No, it's the attack. It's the attack.
In that case, yeah, Farron's gonna dart in between Alindra's legs and snap it.
Okay. I want a roll for him to manage to do this. Can you make a flat quick roll for him, please?
I can. He also has acrobatics novice, which isn't, immediately applicable.
What does that do?
That is the one that you can disengage, where you can roll quick to see if you can disengage with a melee opponent without getting an attack of opportunity.
I'd say that's very applicable. So you know what? I'll give him a +3 on the roll.
Okay.
So
that is a target of 16.
I was going to say, I would imagine his quick is pretty good, right?
Which he succeeds with a 9.
Okay. He's not going to get an attack this turn, but he's managed. Basically, Alindra, you feel something quite large kind of brush past your leg, and you see, like, on the other side of the kind of flickering torchlight from someone behind you. Let's say Anton is like holding the torch high so you can see as well as he possibly can, and you can see like the meerkat sort of skidding on his back paws as he comes around ready to leap on these wraiths from behind on his next turn. This is all assuming, of course, that they're going to make it past Antom's turn. But we'll see. Although is starting to be a bit of a risk, right? He only takes 1 temporary corruption from using a mystical power. What's his corruption threshold, Sam? Antom's?
It's 7, and he's at 3.
Okay. He's fine. He's fine for the moment. Yeah, that's fine. Arendar, you doing anything?
I'm going to move up so that I'm standing behind Alindra and Revelia, so that if one of them feels the need to fall back, then I can step in and maintain a front.
Nice.
Shield walling it. Other than that, there's not much I can do.
I mean, you've got acrobatics, right?
I do.
What level is it?
I've got mastery, I think. Yeah.
Look, mate, if you've got master acrobatics, if you want to come up with a way that you want to try and get, like, parkour along the wall and, like, put your foot on Alindra's shoulder and, like, pitch over and roll back, if you want to do something like that, I will give you a roll for it.
Yeah,
with master acrobatics.
You know what? Farron's already shown me the way.
Sure. You probably can't go the same way, like.
No, not padding along and all.
Over the top is definitely a better option for you.
I'm gonna, like, try and run forward and, like, throw myself forward into a forward roll between them, like a circus acrobat kind of thing.
Yeah. Tope suicida. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Okay. Give me. This is more difficult for sure, so I'm not going to give you a plus. But I want you to make a quick roll against their quick, which is 0. So just make a flat quick roll for me.
Okay. Target of 13. I rolled a 15. It would be really embarrassing if I try and do something cool and it doesn't work. So
I just judged if you fail this, you're going to run for it and then, like, realize that it's not possible or something.
But it would be really cool if I did it. So I'm
Spend the
gonna
XP if you want.
spend the XP.
She roll a 20. Well, we don't usually do fumbles, but I can't help it. No. The fumbles don't exist, so it's outside of combat. So unless we think that a 20 means that Aaron runs up, like tries to leap, loses footage, and just absolutely, bashes the back of Revelia or Alindra. I'll leave that open to the group. I'm happy doing either.
It wasn't an attack roll.
No, it wasn't an attack roll.
But yeah, I'm just trying to think what would happen if you tried to pull this off and then didn't. Like you're running full pelt at a gap between two wraiths and like.
I mean, what happens is either you skid to a stop having realized you can't do it, or you try and make the leap and essentially just jump into your compatriots, or you make the leap over and crash to the floor and do yourself some damage.
Or make the leap, but they get an attack of opportunity.
There's that.
Which may be damning myself by saying that, but
the roll. See, my problem with this is the roll is to make the leap.
You
know what I mean? So.
I think on a 20 it should just be like an embarrassing failure of leaping, really. Like not a mechanical issue, but just like embarrassingly fails to leap over the people.
Like those videos where the cat's lining up for like a big jump and then it ends up doing a tiny one.
Yeah. Or what we could do, if we're generally like, oh well, we could do this, we could do that. I could literally roll for it and we can have it range from crash into Alindra to crash to the ground behind the wraiths and they get an attack, crash to the ground behind the wraiths and just face plant and do yourself some damage, or just skid to a halt embarrassingly and fall on your ass. Like I could roll for those, or we could just say, well, there's no rules for fumbling, so let's just do the latter.
Let's roll.
Sam wants the roll. Do you want the roll, John?
I feel like I've embarrassed myself enough already, but I also feel like I should be punished for my own hubris. So
okay,
fine.
Okay,
let's roll for it. It's fun.
Okay. Well, I've got a D8 here. We have 4 options. I think easily the best option for you is to just embarrass yourself by falling on your ass. I think the worst option is to get some attacks from the 2 wraiths. I think the worst option after that is to bash into Alindra, potentially putting Alindra off. Or do we think the worst? What do we think is worse, bashing into Alindra or face planting on the other side and doing yourself some damage? Which is worse?
I don't know, but it also kind of doesn't matter since there's an equal chance of all of them, I suppose.
It's true. It's true. I'm just thinking. I'm trying to scale. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine.
I know.
I think annoying Alindra would be worse.
Okay,
Alindra might just turn around and chop your head off for annoying her. You never know.
Let's go with that then. Okay. So you've got the second best option. So what that's going to be is you basically sail through the air between both of them, and one of them's kind of like reaches out a drifting shadowy arm, and you kind of try and tilt in the air to avoid it and end up absolutely crashing on the ground behind them and just thumping and like rolling over and over again before you batter into a wall. Can you give me an armor roll, please?
Yes. My armor is D8 plus 1. 6, so 7.
Okay. With that, I can't imagine that you would actually be left with any damage. But at the beginning of your next turn, if we are still in initiative, you'll have to like get to your feet. You're prone. So yeah. Okay, there we go. Wraith time. Okay, Alindra, can you give me a defense roll, please, against a -3?
Defense -3. I need a 10. I get a 6. I have a question.
Okay.
with adept level 2-handed finesse. After a successful defense per turn, I can pass an opposed strong test to push enemies out of melee combat. Is that applicable when the enemies are at best semi-corporeal?
I mean, yeah, I'd say
Okay.
so. Like, you can make it we can interpret it as it's kind of recoiling, right? Like, and it does have substance to it. It's just, yeah,
it's pushing back a couple of meters and doing d6 damage if I pass the strength roll. Is what?
Yeah, I think that's reasonable. Well, make your strong roll at +1 because that's they have strong of 9. So.
Yeah, that's an easy pass. So the d6 damage would be a 4, and it's disengaged, I guess.
And it's disengaged. Yeah, it reels backwards away from you as you kind of like, you know, it comes for you. Your blade comes down against it, and you kind of heave, and there is an odd resistance to it. You feel like you're pushing thicker air, but it's definitely there, and it kind of does float backwards, drifting now closer to Ferrin and Arendar.
Yes.
And can you give a defense roll for Revelia, please?
Yes. She's at +1.
Mm-hmm. Oh no, it will be -3. The +1.
Oh, sorry, -3. Yes. Well, she rolled a 1, so yeah, that's a pass.
That is a pass, and that's a free attack back, I believe.
Ooh, is that how we do that? That's right. Cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a perfect defense, right?
Yeah. Yep. So it's been a little while. Okay, so she passes the attack. She's going to do D10 damage. 5.
Okay. She manages to, like, its sort of elongated, shadowy fingers curl over the edges of her shield, and she just kind of heaves it back and thrusts into it. It's still looking pretty in shape, literally speaking, I suppose, in the case of these wraiths, but she has struck it nonetheless. Steo ain't doing the old tope suicida over the wraiths. Anything?
I think there's nothing for me to do.
Moral support.
I don't even have line of sight, so I can't
fit his spear in between. And
yeah, there must be a gap. Or I can make a gap by just wiggling the spear and kind of thrusting dynamically.
How about I'll say that Anton is like holding the torch high and fumbling with his other hand for the symbol of Prios around his neck. Perhaps taking the torch off him would help him focus on his incantation.
I'll take the torch off Anton, but just for the record, I'm still part of combat, so I'm still getting 2 XP for this session.
Yeah,
or
that's
you'll hear from my union.
Oh, the day in which role players get a union will be, and I am very pro-union, but that will be a sad day indeed. No more. Literally, the thought of it, mate.
We don't deserve one.
Oh, it's not that. It's more like
we're the worst. We're awful.
The day that happens is the day like the majority role player opinion becomes like, you know, sort of like enforced. And man, it
can't be.
I don't get along with most people who do any of my hobbies, and role playing is a particularly contentious one. So you know. Although you're all great, if you're watching this, you're all great. I have nothing but get along with you in the highest. Let's move forwards. So Anton, I mean, ask her how you're playing, Anton. Do I need to ask what Anton is doing? I probably don't.
He's gotta be holy auraing.
He's gotta be holy auraing. Well, that is an extra temporary corruption and a roll of resolute, please.
Okay. His resolute is 15. Let me double check that. Yes, it's 15. So it's 15 or less. That's a 5.
If only you could roll for Mike all the time. Okay, so is that's D8, is it? To each of them?
D8.
Let me just double check something here.
Yeah, the adept.
Okay, yeah, they still do take half damage from it, but yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so that's a D8 on both of them, please.
Okay, D8. I rolled D8s. This is a D8. That's a 2. That's another 2.
Okay. All right. Both
Also
of them
healed everybody. If people take it, people damage.
Has anyone got any toughness?
Actually, yeah.
I have 1d4 toughness per person, I think.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead and do that then, folks. And everyone down the corridor, I'd say that the holy aura actually partly lights up. This place is so dark that actually the holy aura feels like suddenly like, you know, like the sun has come up slightly in this tunnel, and the light kind of billows out. Not bright light, but a kind of soft light billows out from Anton as he grasps his symbol of Prios and chants his prayers. And the wraiths, the edges of them kind of flicker and char slightly as they keen a higher shrieking note before carrying on with their attack. Neither of them are destroyed by the holy aura, but they're definitely damaged by it. Okay, Degesto and Malamai not doing anything. So let's go back round. Askarai with no line of sight.
Yep, I don't think Askarai can really do anything. Stands by, ready to help if needed.
Sure.
Probably draws his rapier. Seems more likely he'll use that than his bow at this point.
Seems likely. How about Elindra? You are disengaged from this wraith. Are we going to re-engage and then?
I guess we are, right? Like Rebelia's doing her thing with her wraith, so
yeah.
So I'll step forward and re-engage, which is an attack.
Free attack
hits, and the damage is 14.
Okay. With the extra room, you manage to sort of twist your blade around your forearm and bring it down in a great cleaving blow that carves through the wraith and leaves it as trickles of fading smoke flowing towards the ground and off towards the walls. It is destroyed.
Lovely. Am I?
And I'd say you
close enough.
Yeah. I think you definitely are. Yeah.
And I feel like I've stepped into a space, so I probably.
I completely agree. I think you can strike at it, and this will be a flank as well.
Ooh. Okay. Which I have to remind myself that's +2, right?
+2 on your attack roll and +d4 to the damage.
Oh. Okay. Yes, that's a hit. 13.
13 damage.
13 damage, yeah.
Yeah. You essentially do the same thing with the other wraith. You've kind of stepped in and around its guard, and again you have the swing, a bit of extra swing in the tunnel, or you have to slightly avoid Ferron and a sprawling Arendar. But you wheel round. It's probably the same extension of the same blow. You've already swung down. You bring the long sword up for another strike. You stand there for a moment in. I see no reason not to imagine that they somehow have the same name for these guards in Ambria. You stand for a moment in Wrathguard and then strike down, tearing the thing apart. It's called that. Nice. Wrathguard. Or Queen's Guard.
Okay.
Or I think Italian texts call it Posta di Falconi, the Falcons hose.
But there's no one cares, Italy in Ambria.
There's no Italy in Ambria. No.
There might have been.
I just think Wrathguard's the coolest, so we'll go.
Let's do that.
So that means there's no pizza in Ambria either.
Oh,
dark fantasy indeed.
Aaron successfully kick flips up to his feet, draws his swords, and then realizes that the entire situation is over.
So you followed. What you're telling me is you followed the Tope Suicida with a kip up.
Yes, I did actually roll for that, and I do have an ability for it. I just did it too late in the combat.
but it looked real cool.
Yes.
Yeah, you flip to your feet and then stand there. There's nothing in the tunnel ahead of you. Farron kind of like sits down and just kind of goes in some confusion that these two foes have vanished. Okay. As you kind of stand there readying yourself after the conflict with the wraiths, there is the sound of dashing feet, and Malamai and Degesto kind of dash around the corner and into the tunnel crack behind you.
How did it go?
You're too late. We killed them all.
Degesto has his hands over his ears.
Copy Degesto.
Okay.
I copy Degesto and also cover Farron with my torso. Yeah.
There is a very sharp cracking report. The tunnel noticeably has, like, the man-made tunnel, parts of the roof are falling down a little bit. The crack that you're in, not so much, but you're all covered with like a swathe of dust that falls from above and kind of douses your face with scratchy fine particles. 10 seconds or so later, the last echo stops.
Well, it sounded good.
Did anyone not copy Degesto? And I know the optimal thing is obviously but did anyone think they wouldn't have after seeing him do that?
I'm actually going to take this. I'm going to be like, Degesto will run out and go, "Oh, it's okay, Degesto. We've killed them all." I'll see him calmly go, "We weren't that loud, were we?" And then
Sure.
Just had a moment and forgot that he was next door setting off explosives.
Absolutely. Well then, for the next 3 hours, Steo, can you take a -1 to vigilant, please? Because you've got
with narrative joy.
Absolutely. Degesto is kind of coughing some dust out of his lungs. All right, go see what you could do then. Oh. Sort of shaking his head with the sort of... He seems oddly shaken by this, given it was him who's done it and he's done it a lot. And anyone who may want to figure out the reason for this can go ahead and take a cunning roll.
Sure, I will.
Yeah.
That's a pass.
Big booms are scary.
You suspect, anyone who succeeded on that, you suspect that this is the kind of thing where the more you do it, the worse it feels.
Okay.
You think some stuff in his head may be, slightly dislodged at this point.
Okay. Kind of thought that when he was talking about the Queen's Rangers, to be honest, but yeah. Guess we're gonna have a look at this door.
I mean more physically than,
Yeah.
He's not got shell shock or anything. He's just, the more you're around very loud explosions, probably the worse the explosions get.
Sure. Each of those like shock waves probably just does a bit of cumulative lasting
light concussion and damage to your eardrums and all sorts of stuff, I'd imagine. Yeah. I mean, in a way that is shell shock, right? So yeah.
Have a look.
Okay. The one side of the metallic panel is bent forwards, cracked, and slightly loose.
Have any of the buttons reset?
The buttons all look to be at the same sort of depth within. So the answer is no. They're still flat in the sockets.
Come on, Linda. Let's see if we can finish the job.
Sure. So you're just going to try and wrench the front of the panel just off?
Yeah.
Okay. With the spear or just hands?
I think it's hands-on at this stage. If it did have a trap in it, it's probably been concussed by now.
Yeah.
Okay.
I thought maybe for a lever, but we'll try it with hands first.
Yeah. So you're just going to go straight up and do that, right?
Sure.
That's the idea. Okay. What are you wearing on your hands?
I guess Alindra's going to have gauntlets of some sort. I don't know how much that's going to cover her palms, though. So, like,
I mean, if they're gauntlets, then it will fully cover palms. Or
definitely have gloves on because I'm hiding the ring.
That's fine. I was just curious because of heat. That's all. But yeah, why don't you both give me a strong roll?
Do that to pass.
Yeah, you both give it a kind of like, what are you? Are you just both put, or are you like 1, 2, 3ing it, or are you just
1, 2, 3 heave?
Yeah, I guess we're trying to have some degree of control over it, right? It's not just tear this thing from the wall.
Maybe well, there is a crack. There's like a crack and a popping sound, and the front of the panel comes off with your wrenching, and I reckon there's probably okay. Yeah, that's fine. The panel has come off. You can see each of the buttons is still there with the symbols on them. You can see a kind of like a recessed space now. Behind them, you can see like little pinions holding them in place. You can see various mechanical things going on behind there, including visibly a kind of clockwork sort of cog, for want of a better word, that's very slowly, like, as you watch it, it moves ever so slightly once, and then you don't see it. I mean, you are sure you would see it move again if you stood and looked long enough.
Give me a torn shant, Tom, and you go take a look at that. I'll kind of bring the light over just so that we have full illumination as possible on it, so Absolutely. We're not making any risks.
Sure. So I think the first thing we want to work out is that cog that moved. Is it attached to something that if we could get purchase on it and turn it, we could maybe
make things
turn that faster?
Yeah. Maybe. But in general, Askarai, can you make 2 rolls for me for Anton? Can you give me a cunning roll, and can you give me a vigilant roll?
Okay, he needs 11 for cunning, 13 for vigilant. He makes them both at 6 and a 12.
Okay. He, as I assume, Lindra has voiced the question about the little cog or something like that.
Yeah, I think yes, she would have done.
Sure. Anton says, I can't see any way to try and move it, and it's possible. It's possible if we break it, we'll never be able to move it round. I'd also say, 1 second. I think this won't reset for a day. These buttons come off. Yes, they come off. He reaches up and sort of gingerly kind of lifts the one at the bottom right off to have just the pinion at the bottom. A pinion that has like what looks like a sharp little needle coming out that would perhaps come out from the hole in the center of the button. But that mechanism, it works this back. not the pinion. I think we can just take the buttons off and press them.
As if it had reset.
Yes, I think so.
I like this because it means we can put
You're
the
on mute,
buttons.
Sam.
Go ahead, Steer.
I like this because it means we can put the buttons back in the wrong order.
Yeah, and also when we finish with this thing, we can probably break it in any number of ways. Let's take the 4 buttons off that we were interested in.
Anton sort of gingerly slides the button he took off back on. Because I don't think that was one of them, unless the bottom right is one of them.
No.
It is not. No.
So
Okay, yeah. He takes off the cloud, the crown, the Manaud's cross, and the sun.
So I suppose at this point we just brute force, not physical brute force, sequential brute force.
Yeah, and we could see if there's any extra mechanism behind these particular buttons that wasn't behind the others. Like, do they look different underneath?
They don't. I suspect the mechanism to determine whether it's correct is further back in the recess. It won't take long to try 24 combinations.
Okay, we'll have to watch out for the darts.
I guess we can already rule out the idea that the crown is the first one. So we're
Which
probably
leaves
down.
me 18.
Yeah.
And Tom nods and says, well then, start. He's just going to start unless anyone's going to stop him.
I'll do it, Anton. I've got gloves on.
All right. Okay. So I am going to painfully go through this just because I'm that kind of guy. So presumably you're not starting with the cloud because that's already been proved wrong.
Yeah. So the next sequence I'm starting with the sun.
Which one did you? Was it the crown you tried last time?
I think the crown
crown
is the one
first.
we.
Oh, was it the crown? You drew a crown.
Yeah.
You tried last time. Okay. So which one are you starting with?
The sun is the first symbol.
Okay. You click it in, and as it does so, you see that there is a little needle that kind of comes out, but because you're holding the pinion, it comes out kind of between your fingers. But you think if someone were to have just pressed it, they would have had a needle in their hand. Sorry, what did you say? The sun?
Yeah.
The sun, the pinion goes in and then comes out again.
So that would have returned to home. I think that's correct.
So
I think it's sun first.
Different.
Okay. So next in the sequence is, let's try the crown.
Okay. It goes in and comes out again.
Maybe.
I think the going in and going out means that it hasn't lodged.
Okay. Well, it's cutting down our number of options then. So Manaud's symbol next.
Okay. It goes in and then comes out again.
One last chance. It's the cloud.
It goes in and fixes in place with a click.
Okay.
So it starts with a cloud.
Then the sun.
It goes in and stays in place with a click.
Ooh.
Fantastic. Get ready. I think we're on to this one.
Crown.
Manaud's symbol next.
It goes in and pops out again.
But the others stay in place, do they? Or do they pop out as well?
The others, that's a good question. The others pop out as well.
So I'll go through the sequence up to that, and then it's going to be the crown, then Manaud's symbol.
Okay.
Or, yeah.
I see no reason for you to repeat it. You click them all in place one by one. There is a detectable physical tremble in the wall, and the granite door eases open with a very loud cracking creak.
Good work, everyone. Thank you, DeGesto. Anton, can you just put the keys back in the wrong order. Alindra, let's just make sure nothing comes out of this hole.
If we
Anton
come
nods
back
and-
out this way, we can damage the mechanism more, so that it doesn't reset, or so that it we can do some damage here on the way out. But right now, I guess we have a ziggurat to explore.
Anton just shrugs and has taken all the buttons off the panel and put them in a bag on his belt.
Well, if that'll be the most obscure profit we make from this trip, but yeah. Let's see what's in there.
Okay.
Maybe we Anton write down the buttons that it was, just in case.
Sure. So where you enter, and let me just need to bring up. Well, not for you. I need a map. You basically walk along a through past the granite door is essentially more of the tunnel you've been in, but it is gently widening out. And before you've walked very far, maybe 20 meters or so, it opens up into what looks a little bit like a sort of intentional basement area. Far kind of above where you are, you can see like it's a basement area with where the ceiling is a lot higher. Once you're out of the tunnel, it really opens up. It's maybe about, well, you know what, it probably says how far up or down it is. Sorry. Yeah, it's about, I was going to say 10 meters, and it is 10 meters, the ceiling. So it's quite far up. You can see that there is a sorry. You can see that there is what looks like maybe like a square trapdoor in that ceiling far above you. You can also see that there is some scuffing on the ground directly beneath it in the dust and the dirt. Over to one side of this basement area, there is also a circular stone stairway leading upwards. And ahead of you, in one wall of this sort of basement-like area, is just an opening that seems to lead to a larger space beyond. A larger space from which there is coming a sort of bluish, greenish, soft light.
Well, the best idea that we've been given about where we're going in this ziggurat is under it, is down. So it looks to me like this way.
Through that opening in the wall
to me.
Towards the light. Okay.
Go towards the light. That's what my pappy always told me.
The eerie glowing light under the ziggurat.
Absolutely.
Of course, that's the way to go.
You emerge.
Regret.
Sorry, we. Yeah, sorry. I was assuming that people were done, but then they weren't. So that's why I kept interrupting. What's happening? Is anything happening, or are we good?
There we go. I think.
Go through. Sorry, I was trying to click. This is the first time in a long while. For anyone who thinks I keep looking confused, this is the first time in a long while. I think I did say that. Did I say this at the beginning of the stream? I'm on one monitor as opposed to two, so I keep having to click away and therefore not know whether the players are like about to start talking or not because I can't see them. So that's why I keep being interrupted. You emerge into a much larger space than the one you left. It's a circular cave, and it definitely is a cave, not man-made. approximately 100 meters in diameter and bordering on an underground pond in the most southerly part of it, the part furthest away from where you've emerged on kind of the north wall of the cave. The pond area, all the walls and the ceiling, as well as it looks like the bottom of the pond, are covered with a blue and green shimmering algae that provides enough light for you to see fairly clearly. The air is very humid, which explains why large parts of the ground that don't have algae on it are overgrown with lush dark green moss. Kind of blocking. So, as I said, the southern part of the cave is this pond. The northern part, the kind of northwest, is where you've emerged into. And not blocking your way, but in the way of you in the northeast part, are 4 extremely well-sculpted statues of black and silver, each on a plinth of granite, standing in a half circle. Beyond those black and silver statues, in the northeast of the chamber, the high priest, mentioned by all accounts, is nowhere to be seen, but on a bed of emerald moss lies an enormous toad-like creature, around 10 meters long from nose to tail, nearly 4 meters tall, even while lying flat on the ground. Its reddish skin looks almost black in the green shimmering light, and it is not moving, but slow movements of its flank show it is breathing. And I think we'll leave it there. Ready to meet a toad god. So, there we go, folks. Thank you very much for playing, for watching. If you want to pop anything into chat, comments and questions, we will get to them. First, we'll do some lovely promo. Check the links below. Links to YouTube, links to Twitch. We're on both those things. Go check out the one that you're not on right now, I guess. There's also links to our social media, our Discord, our Patreon. Check those out if they're the kind of things you're interested in. We're running 3 weekly games at the moment. Vaesen on Mondays, Symbaroum on Wednesdays, and our new game of Wicked Ones starts tomorrow with a kind of session 0 setting the scene thing. Get involved with that all at the same time, 8 o'clock in the evening BST. We also run monthly one-shots. We haven't really had one in September, but I think our next one should be on the 1st of October, which is Johnny's 3rd Space Age Call of Cthulhu story. The previous 2 are both on YouTube. If you want to look them up on that, if you just search Call of Cthulhu, they should come up amongst our other Call of Cthulhu stuff. We don't have any other one-shots planned for the end of the year, but you know what? If you really want to suggest something to us, you go join our Discord and you go into our main chat and you say, Matt asked us to come suggest something in this stream. So here's my suggestion. And we will probably go, cool, and then not do it. But hey, maybe, right? Maybe. There's always a chance. As for things that happened this stream, thank you very much to Night Bites for your resubscribe. We really appreciate it. Night Bites, one of our most persistent fans, in a good way. Yeah, there we go. Comments and questions, please, John. Steve, look for a post-it note on a monitor. Yeah.
Apparently.
Yoshina Senpai, this is making me look forward to my own Symbaroum game tomorrow. Good. We hope to inspire affection and dread for Symbaroum in all of our viewers. 0120. Arendar failed to do what Inigo Montoya did when dueling the Man in Black. Too bad, because that would have been awesome. He did do that. 42, Aaron ain't no Inigo Montoya. Although someone did kill your father, you know? Just don't know who.
Well, my understanding of it was that my father died of undisclosed possible illness, possible getting lost in the mountains.
Maybe.
Where did he catch the illness from?
Yeah.
Who put those mountains there, yeah?
I can't remember if the prologue person was your father or your mother or your grandfather or your grandfather.
Prologue person
was my cousin.
Was a cousin.
cousin. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hello, my name is Arendar. My father died of natural causes or
My father
Probably.
died of.
Prepare
My
to
father
die.
died of. My father died
My
of
father-
dysentery. Prepare
My
to
father
die.
died of exposure. Prepared to die.
Dysentery is far funnier than exposure. Sorry.
Sure.
Unless you've got it, in which case, not so much.
Oh well, yeah. Don't kick food. Drink your smoothie from a mustache cup. I don't know. I don't know. John, can we get an image of a mustache cup up on
Yeah,
screen,
let me just
please?
get it up.
Just for the record, we're
Get
not
the image up.
sponsored, so this is work for free.
Oh no, my thing isn't loading all of the chat. Hang on,
Oh.
hang on.
What?
This is going to happen though.
Yes, it is. Because I want to know what these look like and how stupid they are. You know, in my head, the only thing I have, and it obviously can't be that because it's a cup, but like General Melchit's mustache hammock that he sleeps with.
Yeah.
Showing my age there, of course.
I have to say, when I clicked on this link, I thought it was going to be like a modern, silly like invention for people with mustaches, like a bit of a novelty. But it's actually like old,
I see.
fancy Victorian kind of.
Kind of
see.
adorable.
Well, they
It
did
is.
have very big mustaches, so that kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
They did, and they also waxed their
cool.
mustaches. Because the I mean, as you can see, the link Don't Kick Food has put is the Wikipedia page, and there's a lot of mustache cap lore here. Yeah, they also used to wax their mustaches, and the heat of the tea used to melt it, so you had to like nestle it.
See, I don't think there's anything those mustache cups don't do that I can't do just by sort of open mouth drinking. You know what I mean?
It's not very gentlemanly, though, is it, Matt?
That
Need
can be
to
said of
move on.
so many things that I do.
We need to move on from this before we get classed as an educational stream and lose even more viewers.
Next. 42. I hate everyone in the room, present company accepted. Yes, those are my exact sentiments. You're all great in the most general non-committal sense. Yes, exactly. Clearly, I don't hate everyone who does my hobbies. Otherwise, I wouldn't be on stream with these people, right? But yeah. Next.
There's this one.
Having looked around in the source book, I'm somewhat surprised at how sparsely things are described. Must be a fair amount of work to prep. Some of it is, yeah, like some bits are like very heavily described, and then other bits barely at all described. I tend to find that like very story important sections get a lot of heavy description that I can just read out, but everything between is kind of like, yeah, you do this. Symbaroum operates. The writers of Symbaroum love themselves an adventure landscape. And the whole thing of adventure landscapes is the bits that are important get like a big paragraph, and like you can pull all the bits out and read them, and everything in between is like, eh. And unfortunately, people tend to spend more time in the bits in between than they do in the important bits because travel and, you know, while we're there, let's do this and stuff like that. So yeah, there's a fair bit of that. I would say I really like the Throne of Thorns, but I think it would represent a lot of work for someone new to GMing. Yes, that's a good way to phrase it.
I wonder to what extent, though. I mean, I haven't really read the books, because obviously player, but you know, if they try to cover every possible eventuality in that kind of detail, like is that remotely humanly achievable?
No,
or do you kind of
no,
have to have some
it's not.
looseness and hand waving to account for players making weird decisions, right?
You do. I think it could be written in a way which was less loose, but I do think that would, of course, take up more room in the book. Which it's important to note that each of the just as a guide. Well, let's use Witchhammer as a guide for it, right? Like the book is this long, so I guess kind of average for a modern RPG product and for a 90s RPG product, barely a zine. But like, for people's knowledge, the actual story part of this is, let me check it, almost exactly half of the book, right? And the other half is like new mechanics, and also an extensive description of Karvosti, the history of Karvosti, the people on Karvosti, stuff like that. So a lot of it is a setting thing purely for Karvosti, which means that I think you definitely could include more detail in the adventure landscapes of like what all the in-between bits are like, but you would have to either make a bigger book or lose the incredibly detailed section on Karvosti itself. Or parts of it, or whatever. Right? So,
presumably, it's as well as being this adventure, it's you also want Karvosti fleshed out as a place that you're likely to spend time in, either in this campaign or rolling your own.
Yeah, potentially. I mean, obviously, as part of Witchhammer, you're on Karvosti anyway, but like certainly, like they're very useful as books for people who want to go beyond the bounds of Throne of Thorns. In terms of like, if you were running. Like if I was running a very long campaign of this and it was like a 4-hour session I was doing every week with people or whatever, then I'd probably want to pad out around it a lot more in terms of story. I was thinking about that today and how interesting if I was doing Throne of Thorns again, what I would do differently. I would do things quite differently, I think. Specifically, I would spend time establishing some things, some concepts, some factions, and some characters long before they're established in Throne of Thorns. For example, I would have you arrive on Karvosti already being friends with Elmendra. I would have the players know Anadea before the beginning of Wrath of the Warden. Like these elements. I would have like the concept of the Knights of Dead Prios introduced a lot earlier. I would have like all these elements, and I have done some work with that. As people who've read all these through already will know, I've now started doing that.
Sort of seeding later things.
And I think some people who are like Symbaroum nerds will have watched some stuff we've done in the last year and go, "Oh, cool! That's really going to help later on bringing this in." But I only really realized that in the last year, so like. Yeah, I definitely would do some things a lot differently, and one of those could be spending more time in Thistlehold and in Karvosti and doing like little side adventures and stuff like that.
There was that moment, I think it was like right at the beginning of the first session of Wrath of the Warden, when we were in the tavern and the goblin messenger turns up with the note to go and meet Anadea. You were just like, do you want to go and meet Anadea? Please say yes.
Yeah, and it is noted, like it's not just like we are not the first group to note this. Other people, I see it a lot on like the Symbaroum Reddit and like the Facebook group of Symbaroum thing that I'm on. I see a lot of people say, why would the players care? Like, why would they? Like, and I think there are sections in the books, to be fair, that are like, why do they care? Well, maybe this or maybe that. But it's all stuff that you'd really need to have seeded beforehand.
Yeah.
And that's difficult. Like, it's definitely a campaign where you need to read ahead as the GM. Like, there's things I put in now to get us ready for the Darkest Star, which is the next one. But you need to read ahead to do that. So I definitely advise people to do that and do that work. So I think it will help a lot, because how much better would this have felt if you had stakes in the fate of Elmendra?
Yeah,
right?
I do think our quest to save Elmendra has felt a little tenuous at times. Like we're like risking a lot to save this random person. And I think it's helped by the fact that we have some people in our group who are like, okay, but maybe let's go to Symbar, maybe let's loot all the treasure. Like, or, we have like other motivations. But if all our motivation was like, let's save Elmendra, like we've done a heck of a lot of work to save a random person we've never met or have no
once it becomes clear that the end of the path of looking for Elmendra is Symbar, like that does open a whole can of other motivations. But I think if I was to do this again, I would have. I know what I do. I would make it so you didn't have one handler with Mother Mahira's agency, you had two, Urfons and Elmendra. And I would have had Elmendra leave the agency between Wrath of the Warden and Witchhammer, like kind of storm out and say, I'm not part of the agency anymore. And then I could have laid the things of like some tension being there or whatever beforehand, but I would have had you, like, she's an NPC you're invested in, right? You like her, she's looked after you, sort of thing. And I maybe even would have had Urfons as you went to Karvosti go, Elmendra headed up that way. Can you try and find her and bring her back or something? Or like at least make sure she's safe. And you already would want to keep her safe. You like her, etc. She's your friend. And then the whole thing clicks into place a bit more, right?
Yeah.
So that's what I would have done. But I didn't. So there we go.
I do want to say,
read ahead,
that I did kind of like Anadea and just the establishment of, hello, I'm going to be an important NPC for the rest of the story. Oh, I died off screen.
No, it's impactful.
Something about that was really nice.
Yeah.
It is impactful. What I would have probably done with that, if anyone's interested in knowing, if I was to run a campaign again, I would actually have some interaction way back at the beginning of the campaign be between the group and Master Vernum, the original Iron Pact contact in Thistlehold, and then when he is murdered in Mark of the Beast, which you play. This is going over Stephen's head, but like his successor is Anadea, right? So then I might not have had you meet her, but you would have at least been aware. Master Vernum helped us out. Maybe you know his Iron Pact, maybe you know, and he was killed. And then whatever he does, he seems to do this mysterious stuff. This woman is now his replacement, so maybe we should meet her. Maybe we should, and that would have been a little more investment, right? A little more like, she's part of the same organization as Master Vernum. He was a great old guy who helped us out, and then he was killed horribly. Maybe we should help hear this person out, and then they die, and you're like, holy shit, maybe there's something. Clearly, someone's trying to get rid of these people, and maybe that would have, I don't know. That's what I do. People out there, you can have that one for free.
Yeah, it would have saved you having to say, please be interested in this.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, next one, John, and we will go through this, but let's this has to be the last one today. Zeron, would you guys like to share any favorite moments in this campaign so far? It would be fun to hear what you particularly enjoyed so far. Shall we stick with Witchhammer though? Because I think we've answered similar questions like this for like previous. So shall we say in Witchhammer scenes or moments we've enjoyed? I'll be awkward. Sam, you're first.
I really liked the tomb that I don't know if it had a name. I don't know if we knew the name. We came up here, had like the dead old Symbaric family in it, and like the boar. I felt like the fights in that were like very dangerous. I felt like it was an interesting kind of like, there were like clearly kind of bad guys in there, but they weren't like, they didn't particularly want to kill us. They kind of let us loot a bit. I just thought like the bandits as well. The memes of Arendar being terrible in negotiating. All good. I really like that whole part of the campaign.
Yeah, that sounds good. I'll find the name of that little scenario in a second. But Stephen, you're up next.
I think I am enjoying this bit the most, Volgoma and Yeferon. It feels like we've kind of got into our stride and it's kind of nice and crunchy. Like Faramaroom was interesting, but I think I've expressed it before, certainly like behind the scenes, like that place is really big.
Mm-hmm.
And so exploring that was a bit of a thing, but this feels like a good size, some nice threats, some interesting new things happening. So yeah, that's good.
Good. If anyone's interested, the scenario that Sam is talking about is Green as Copper, which is actually in Wrath of the Warden as like a little standalone scenario. But I put it fit in between the two. And next we have Christopher.
I haven't really, because when I'm asked these questions, it's always kind of where was Steo's most Steo moment, and I haven't really had any huge Steo moments so far. But I think I do recall having a great deal of fun during the Fundaba fight, on the outskirts of the goddess village. That just seemed to be mechanically really fun. I think it was the first time we'd come across something kind of with such a disgusting weapon that kind of broke combat into different components in such a nice and dynamic way.
Yeah, and it was one of those like edgy Symbaroum combats where it's like, oh, we came out of that with not taking too much damage, but everyone was well aware that if a hit had gotten in, it could well have literally just killed someone with a single strike. So and Steo killed the troll all by himself, right? I think.
Well, although actually, do you know what? I've just thought of another thing. The first time on Yeferon Isle, when you said everyone takes a point of temporary corruption, and I was like, no, I will not do that. That was my favorite moment.
Excellent. John.
I also really liked Green as Copper because like the thing of the fact that we found this like ancient Symbaric necromantic family and we're just like, oh hi, how are you? Great. And it was fine. The fact that like we're used to that being bad news and they were just chilling. They were just living forever.
Yeah, and there's something quite poignant that this kind of ancient undead sorceress was like, you can take whatever you want. Just leave me and my family alone. I just want to sit with them here silently forever.
Yeah.
Which is like, okay, that's pretty heavy stuff. Yeah.
For the sake of doing something, go ahead.
I distinctly recall feeling a vigilant roll to understand that they were undead because Steo would not have suffered them to live in that situation. So I'm kind of glad we got out of that without having to bust anyone up.
You just thought there were some weird folks.
100% just thought there was weird elf stuff going on here. It's fine.
Amazing.
For the sake of picking something different, I also liked the little seed that has been planted when we were fighting that necromancer and Alindra got a hit on and Matt was just like, okay, the combat's over.
Yeah. Turns out the sword talks.
Yep.
Turns out it talks, and it seems to have devoured this ancient Symbaric necromancer's soul. So that's a thing that we might come up again.
Whatever that was, it was personal. Okay.
Yeah.
I would also like to put out an honorable mention for a moment that Mike pointed out to us, who hasn't been with us for the past couple of sessions, but is watching this on the YouTube. Hi, Mike. And the other week he shared a screen cap of the moment Arendar took strength damage. And it was like a perfect, like 5 reaction shot of everyone like,
well, can we bring that up?
I can try
because it was an absolutely amazing screenshot.
I think someone said in the chat, if we did like faces on our thumbnails, we could have had 5 good thumbnail faces out of this image.
Yeah, it was crazy good. It was just me like, and everyone like, it was very good. It was so good that someone in the Discord, in our Discord channel, made a meme out of it. So yeah, there we go.
Brilliant.
Wonderful. Okay. Thanks everyone. Thanks to everyone playing. Thanks to everyone watching. We'll be back next week for more Symbaroum. Until then, take care and stay safe, people. We'll see you soon. Goodbye.